Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast, the corner of the internet where you can find me, your host, Francie, serving up all the EV news that we can get our hands on. Today, I am joined by Kyle from Out of Spec and Darren Palmer, VP of Electric Vehicle Programs at Ford Motor Company. As one of the major U.S. automakers to make strong strides in the electric vehicle arena, it'll be nice to pick Darren's brain today, which is also the 2-year anniversary of the Ford F-150 Lightning electric truck. So let's plug in. This episode is made possible by the support we get from Fort Collins Kia. If you are in the market for any electric Kia, not only do they never add market adjustments, they will deliver your car to you anywhere in the 48 contiguous states for out-of-spec viewers. More information in the link in the show notes. Okay, welcome, Darren. It's great to have you onto the podcast. Thank you for giving us a bit of your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great to see your smiling faces, especially Kyle's. After I watched you in the video in the Mach-E rally, and it seems to be the same smile you were wearing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mach-E rally was awesome, dude. I mean, Ford builds enthusiast products almost like no other. So I was just glad to see an electric sort of rally specific version, but also, as you know, that car is just as comfortable on road as it is off road. So I was pretty impressed with that package.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a real learning exercise, and done by a very our always on team, and we followed a whole process that was not usual. I just realized I've got parked behind me some of the toys we were playing with. That's an electric Mach-E and so on that we were playing with while we developed that program. There's a whole story to it, but it was a real skunk work success, if you like, of people who are just enthusiastic about it, and then made a car that's really unusual. I mean, there's not many off-road EVs yet, and we learned a ton. Like you mentioned one, it's just the best road quality, road suspension quality vehicle of all the Mach-Es as well, and still handles really well. So we learned something there and gave another choice for customers. So great learning exercise.
Yeah, Kyle definitely really enjoyed that one. And it was nice to see, everyone having fun, because that's part of it too. It's not just your daily commuter, but these can be performance vehicles. And I know you were on the Batteries Included podcast earlier today, which was great, Darren. So we'll be asking you some similar but also different questions to what they asked. And I thought maybe a good way to set the stage is to ask about your perspective and Ford's perspective of the state of the electric vehicle industry right now, especially because there's been a lot of headlines of re-strategizing around electrification plans and delays that we've been seeing from all, if not most automakers, including Ford. So, it typically has our commenters concerned. Some people are saying, of course we would expect this. What is your perspective on the point in time we are right now in this industry?
So we know we're in the adoption curve. Some parts of the world and country are in innovator on the curve. Some are in early adopter, and some further along. And we know there's this Moore's chasm as you come up from between innovator and early adopter, where early buyers don't necessarily believe the people who are really upfront early adopters, and it takes time. Now, trying to predict how fast that will move is a challenge, and everybody was leaning into that super hard a year ago and wanted to be ready for when that transition occurs. And so us and everybody we want to be ready for that. We want to be at the front of that. We believe in that vision of the future. And so we lean super heavy there, ready for that exponential growth to occur. Now, growth is occurring. I mean, we're selling double what we sold last year. So that's 100% growth in a year. Not many businesses have that. But however, we're expecting 400% and 500%. So that hasn't quite materialized the same way. So it'll be spread out over a little bit a longer period, I think, is the realization of the industry. And so now, how may you adapt to optimize your spend so that you get the right product at the right time for people, and also learn from what they want as they adapt, make sure you give them the right product. So that's what we're really doing, adjusting, spreading it out a little bit, still working on lots and lots of new products, EVs, except just need to just adjust that plan appropriately for that. And that's what we've been doing. I also just came back from China, a couple of trips actually in the last month, and where they're a little bit further forward on that transition, and there's various reasons for that, but it's profound. I stood in the center of Shanghai, and it's silent. And it's a vision of what a future can be, and it's really nice. Everybody will love that. And EVs have become more than 50% are electrified now, and there's many good reasons for that. They also have products available that we don't have here in the West yet, and they're a big part of also catering to what people want and making them even more viable. But that mindset has occurred, the change. And I told them about some of our challenges, and I mentioned, what we're seeing. And one of them commented, "Oh yeah, we were seeing that about 4 years ago as well." So maybe they're just ahead, but I saw that vision of what the future is. And I can see where the rest of the world is going to go at various speeds.
Francie, go ahead if there's anything you want to go with.
No, I mean, it seems like we're on the right track, but it's slower. I think typically the timelines that I've seen in whether it's the charging space or the EV space, they want to be short and they end up becoming longer. So, got to do that research and stuff. And with the F-150 Lightning being around 2 years, Mach-E since 2019, right? So lots to work with there, which I know Kyle has a lot of questions about as well, where you're going, also what you've gathered along the way in terms of your decisions going forward. Right, Kyle?
So, Darren, can you talk to us early days, F-150 Lightning, before pre-series, idea? You've been at Ford for a really long time. I know we've chatted about some of your history with the company. For those who don't know, Darren's a real car enthusiast. So it's great to have him leading the electric side, because I think your expectations and how cars should drive come from your car enthusiasm. You've owned some awesome cars, driven them in many cool places. So that's exciting to me and speaks well for, maybe some future products that were to come. But let's go back. Who came up with the idea for an electric F-150? How did that all start? Because again, we're celebrating the 2-year, production run. How did it all start?
Yeah, so we were in a team at the time, and we were looking at how will we guide Ford's jump into EV. It had been decided we're going to make a significant change and jump in. Before, we had products that you may call more compliance products, really, or an early start, and we learned something from it, but it wasn't the more all in. And we were tasked with, hey, what would a significant move into EV mean, and where would you go? And so with a small team of people, we went around the world to see where the development was: China, California, and Norway, and Europe, and just gathered information about where people were. Spoke to lots of customers in a non-pressure environment, just to hear what they said and what they thought, and that really guided us as to people with EVs, what they felt about them. There were different types, of course. Eco and reasons for eco, for reasons for financial and reasons for desirability, and then the techie EVs, I would call them. And the techie EVs was a really strong one. It came out strong, exciting EVs, I would call that. And that inspired us. And in China too, inspired us. We saw what was looking like it would happen. And then we saw the excitement side, and then we came back and said, right, where will we focus? What is possible? You always look at strategy. What is possible to do? And then what is right for your company? And so we looked at, you could play in all these different spaces and how well they would fit to EV. We evaluated from the knowledge we'd gained. But then we came to where would both fit and fit Ford. And we decided that they would be exciting, and they would not go timidly in and make an EV and see how it goes, but go into our most important icons and most important segments. If you're serious, go there. And that challenged you, and boy, did it. And first was we're going to go in the 2-row segment because it's one of the biggest in the world. And we were halfway through our vehicle, so that gave us a head start because we wanted to move fast. And there we decided that technology was much more important, actually, to that customer. And you needed to have a technology feel. But we also said, where will we go? We're not going to copy somebody. And so we decided we would go to a sporty tech feel and an SUV, a crossover, because we saw a big fit, big market. And then we decided that could be a Mustang, and that's its own story, and lots have been written about it. And we chose, and then it inspired everybody to do better. The car changed in completely what it was in every aspect: technology, powertrain, battery, everything. And it really did what we hoped it would do. It inspired us. Also created there's controversy and discussion, and all great work. That is what bred innovation. So Mach-E was the first. The second was commercial, because it was crying out for EV, and we are the leader in commercial in the world. So we said, but if we use the parts from the Mach-E into an E-Transit, that would be fast, reliable, good cost, and if it fits the use case. So we created a transit EV, and when we talked to customers, that we could see that could work very well, because you have set routes, you have depot planning, and no charging. So that was the second one, really obvious for us. And then the third one, we said the next biggest pool of product for us is, of course, truck, and of course F-150. So dare we go into F-150? And that, of course, was some huge debate. At the time, EVs didn't have the following they have now. It's our most important product, with our strongest brand. And shall we get that into EV? And that was a controversial thing. Controversial in the company. And what could it be? And the first questions were, well, not if it's not good enough. No, the brand is too important, and that we will not tarnish the brand of F-150. And so if you do an EV, you better be worthy of the brand of F-150 in every way possible. And so they put bars up that were to the sky. It's going to do everything and better, and not one compromise, and all of those things we got, because the brand's so important. We decided for Mach-E, we put together the EV team with the tech team with the Mustang team. So when it came to the truck, we said, well, there are people who know much more than some of us about truck, like their whole career. So we put that team together with the tech team, together with the EV team, and they worked on it. And that was a wonderful mix of characters, not always with the same opinion. And it was a wonderful project to work on. So the knowledge about truck came in, and then it was challenged. And one of the funny early ones, they came in and told me all about tough truck and how important that was. And I was learning that. I was newer to the US and still learning why the US loves trucks so much. I now know, but it takes a while to pick it up. And he told me one fact. He said, see that over there? And over there was the built for tough casting, the big metal casting. He said, that's the actual casting that they drop in the advert. It drops on the floor and all the powder comes out. He said, that's not fake. That's the actual one that they drop. And because we're not about faking F-150. Like, wow. So we did it together, and we decided it was the most important product segment. Therefore, we must attack that. That's why, to answer your question, why F-150? That's why.
Well, I'm a big F-150 driver. I grew up with them. Trucks are so important to our culture, of course. And I love the story. I mean, I think it's so different than any other automaker attacking EVs. You went hardcore. You're like, oh, Mustang name, literally the thing that is the nearest and dearest to Ford's heart, and then made that electric. And F-150, same situation, made that electric. Can you talk to us about briefly the development process of F-150 Lightning? Because I'm sure a lot of it was done in simulation. I'm sure a lot of it was done in real hardcore testing. And I'm sure, more interestingly to me, is like there must have been a split vibe in the company where there must have been people saying we should never electrify an F-150 Lightning. How did you convince everyone to go ahead? What was the internal bit?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So when we asked about it, the first thing we got back is you will not tarnish the name, because they wouldn't necessarily believe it was a great thing, right? So we understand this is the bar. You will not compromise any part of F-150. Okay, got it. So exactly what that is, we will not. And the built for tough element is one of those elements. Okay, every single piece of testing a normal F-150 does, this electric will do, and it will pass it exactly the same with flying colours. Given, okay, we just said done. That's it. And that led to certain engineering specification that is zero compromise. Silver, driving and all sorts of things. But it just met the same spec as a standard vehicle. But at the beginning, it was asked, why do you even want to do it? Does anyone even want this? It was asked. And so we went back to our place and said, okay, do they? And then we came quickly, we discussed around and around. People don't know what they want because they don't know what it does. And how can you ask them? So we actually arranged, we said, we were in a very human-centric design style. And we were like, sitting in our office with a PowerPoint is no use to us. We get out. So we had a human-centered design expert there, and she said, get up. We're going out. We're not doing it here. And we went. And so within 1 week, we put together a workshop with customers. And I think you've heard me say it before. I said, I want the toughest, hardest customers you can think of. I do not want a single person saying to us, well, you chose the wrong one. I said, I want the toughest people. So they said, all right, Texas. Go to the heart of Texas to hardcore truck users, and we're going to ask them. And so we arranged this event, and we went there, and we said, what are we going to do? So, well, we need to tell them what we're making, otherwise they can't even assess it. So we got it ready in days, and we went there. And we got our South Korean human-centered design expert to host the session. And it was just so amazing video. They knew they filmed it as part of the deal, and we're watching it. So we started off the session, and we said to them, we're thinking of doing an F-150 electric. And you got the range of comments you would imagine. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's not a lot of good for inputs. You have to probe people. So she said, well, okay, what kind of dog is that then? It's a poodle, French poodle. Oh, it's a chihuahua. Okay, yeah, okay, got you. And what kind of drink is it? Oh, pink champagne, Chinzano. Okay, good. I understand. So, okay, and tell us about it. And they told us, oh, it's going to be like a eco car, and it won't pull the skin off a pudding, and it won't do this or that. They just had their own impression of an EV. Okay, so that's good. So we said, okay. So then we said, right, forget that. We'd like to talk about, a new car. I can't tell you what it is, but it might be a Raptor, and this is what it does. And so we talked about that. They got all excited about Raptors, and, you can imagine the kind of stuff you have. So they were fired up about that. And we said, okay, one more after. Forget that now. We'd like to talk about another vehicle. And I want to tell you what it does and then get your comments. And so we then described our best guess at the specs of an F-150 Lightning. The torque, the power, pulling 10,000 pounds up a 25% grade like it hasn't even woken up. Effortless. Except, the ability to build torque up quickly, all those things, off-road ability, all those. And we didn't tell them what it was, but they thought it was another type of Raptor, I guess. And they went crazy for it. Got to have it, best car in the world, all those things. Then we said, yeah, that's the electric one. And I've got an amazing video of, oh, you're kidding me, no way. It had every range of response. And then a couple of them said, well, there are these other cars that do these things, and maybe that's what it does. And they started thinking a bit more. So we got that out, and that was interesting. And then we did an exercise with the frunk. And we had modeled the frunk, we showed it to them, and we took them through it. And I've got some unbelievable video. Again, customers never do what you think, and some of them look like Texans that might, big, tough, right? And one guy, the biggest, toughest of all, we showed him the front, and he went crazy. He's like, my God, I got to have that. I've got my own business, and I like to play golf, but I've never got my clubs. And do clubs fit in there? And we put the clubs in. He went crazy. Oh, my God, I'm going to put them in there. Has he got power? Yes, power in there. Oh, the rangefinder! I'm going to be ready at any time. I'm going to pull up to the country club and press the button. It opens, and he was visualizing his usage of it, right? And he he was blown away. And by the end of the video, he was stood on a chair, his arms up, saying, "I'm not leaving until you take a deposit." And so we took that back to our teams, and we held a session with a huge number of our teams and leaders. And we said, we went out to see, because, let's go and see. And this is what they said at the beginning. We played the video, and maybe, they were nodding. They played into what they thought. And then I said, and then we told them what we did. And then this happened, showed them. And then finally, and I played the front, and I freeze framed it on the guy still on the chair, big beard, very large guy, saying, "I'm not leaving till you take a deposit." And then we turned back to the audience and said, "So I guess maybe there could be demand for this thing." And it really got everybody thinking about it. And we were like, yeah, let's go and look at this. That was the start of the project. And then from then on, we put the team together and started working on it.
That is a really great story, honestly, especially about the inception of this and proving it and getting all that feedback, because you are bringing, this Ford tough, this truck, lifestyle, and changing it by putting in all the baggage that comes with making something electric, especially a truck. So you took all of that in the beginning for the internal development process to prove that there is a demand for this. And then obviously you've seen that there are people out there who love the F-150 Lightning, or who have been even, been on one side of the fence and jumped over. And although sales haven't been maybe what y'all really wanted, and I think you're not the only ones in experiencing that, I'm sure you have had a lot of customer responses, both from people who have and have not bought the F-150 Lightning. So can you maybe speak to that, who those people are and what you've learned from them, and then how you're focusing those on the areas of improvement that you're looking towards, or your strategies going forward?
So we, again, from the learning of talking to customers on early EVs, the expectation that there's a lot of software in them and they're software derived, it is that they will be updated and they will get more features as time. Really, really important. So early on, this is 5 years ago now, we said that's really going to be an important element, and that not something that was pervasive in all cars at the time. So we said we're going to need to do that. And then when we launched, we put together an always-on team, we called it, and they were responsible for the car, and they all things to do with the car. And social media had become a very great and rich input at that time. And when we launched the Mach-E, we did the same. There was a lot of enthusiasm for the car, so enthusiast groups formed, and they were just a great collection to get feedback directly. So on the first morning of the launch of Mach-E, Saturday morning, the first thing I did in my whole team was go to social media, and we looked. And you know what? It popped up. Somebody had a charging problem. So, okay. So we hadn't done this before, didn't normally do this. We then we tried to work out which dealer it might be, contacted the dealer and said, could we have permission to contact your customer? And he checked, said yes. And we contacted the customer that afternoon. They were quite surprised. And then we said, can we come and have a look, what this is? And he said, yeah. They were there the next morning, and they found out that his charger was faulty on the wall of his house. But the car assumed the charger's working if it's powered up and there's some voltage. So it transfers battery charging of the 12 volts to there, but it wasn't actually working. So it didn't charge the 12 volt battery, and the battery went flat. So we rediscovered it on the first day. We had a software update within a week, and all cars on production we held until we had fixed it. So nobody even saw the problem, and that was because we found an issue on social media. Not everyone would have had the problem because it was only because of that charger was faulty, but we found it. We never had a feedback loop that fast in our careers. So we were inspired, and so we do it every day. So we listen every day to the social media, and where there's clear sites like that, they're even better. I won't name them all, but they're really good for collecting. Plus all the podcasts, and the teams are looking at it the whole time. So they use that to learn what customers want and help them. First, help problems, because when someone's got a problem, and fix those first, and then learn what they really want, and we build that into the cycle. So I have no fixed update cycle. So it used to be 3 years after launch. but there is no fix, none at all. There's just, hey, there's a team, there's determine what we need to do and put them into proposed packages and what timing it will take to engineer it, and then get on with it, and then fit them in amongst launch timings. That's all there is. And then there's OTA. OTA is as fast as you can. And OTA is a whole subject you may want to talk about. But OTA, you've got to be very careful that you don't damage the car, because you think they're all the same and it would be easy, but it's not that easy. You can easily break a car with an OTA if you're not careful. So you have to validate the OTA. And so quality is the most important thing. So, and it has worked. We haven't caused people's cars to break. And if we have had an incident, we fix it immediately and we pause or going out. So that's worked rather well. But OTA, constant update is an important thing to the customers.
Well, actually, let's keep on that track. So I want to talk more F-150, and this can be specific to F-150 as well. But ultimately, we have driven F-150 Lightning thousands of miles. Maybe I've done 30, 40,000 miles in the truck. Not nearly as many as some owners, but certainly know the truck pretty well and love the truck. The hardware is awesome. That thing is so comfortable, so quiet. We can go on. We've done reviews. We've done videos. Go on and on about how great the truck is. We spoke on the Batteries Included podcast a lot on T3, a lot on the next generation stuff, which we don't even need to get into in this episode. It's going to be so exciting. It's going to be awesome, but we're just talking Lightning today. So what has been the strategy with Lightning to improve the truck? Where do you get feedback? How do you implement it in? It sounds to me like the software teams are broken into almost two different departments, where you have everyone working on all the new stuff, everyone working on the old stuff. How do you make the old stuff or the current stuff still rip, still get improvements, get things like dog mode, which we really want? It seems to me when we talked on the Batteries Included podcast, like everything we want, it's easy to come up with a feature list, and you guys have the feature list. It just seems to me like it's a bit slow to get to the truck. So how do you speed that up? How do you improve today's customers' experience?
So the always on team meets, though we're all positioned on the fourth floor of a building here, which we were one of the first teams to come back after COVID. And we established that just as we were allowed after COVID, and they're all here. So here is I'm on one end. As I go down there is the T3 team. Then there is the always on teams for Mach-E and Lightning and transits in Europe. And then at the end is the forward model teams of the other products, that we're working on, all in one line, in one place, to learn from each other. And they all know each other really well. But a focused team on the current product is necessary. Without that, you get too much dilution of everybody goes to the new one and doesn't look after the old one. So we knew that. And in fact, before with cars, that's the plan. You develop a new car, then you refresh it 3 years later, then you do either refresh on a new car. That's how cars were developed. So we had to change that. That's why it's called Always On. And they focus on it. So every week I have hub reviews with those teams. And there is nobody more enthusiastic about our products for our customers than those teams. I love working with, them, Donna Dixon, Vince Mach-E, and Rich Crader on the vehicle side, and Depot, right? You know them because you met them, because they come to the events and they're free to talk to you about anything that we do. They love the cars, they love the customers, and they know lots of customers. John Gilchrist, him helping out customers with any problem they got. I mean, he gives his own car out to people when necessary. Just they couldn't ask for more from the teams, and they listen to they listen to social media, what professionals are saying about the cars, and then they form lists of what could we attack, how could we attack it, how could we do it most effectively, what will it cost, and what timing, and then break them into groups and set them out. And you cannot do everything, as you're well aware. You have to have some trades, because one thing gets in the way of another thing. So that's constantly having to work that out. And then you prioritize what's most important. Do we believe in the eyes of the customer? And quality's first, always first. After that, it's feature. And then after that, it's new product, if you like the rally. So they broke it into these. We meet every week and we prioritize and then plan that in the company. That includes the digital side. The digital side is huge now, and you have to work on it. That car's on a system called FNV2, Fully Networked Vehicle 2. and that is one architecture. That's a different architecture to the brand new stuff coming in a few years. So mixing them is not that useful as a team because they're on different architecture. However, they influence each other about what works, both what's working today for the new one and also what people want in the future. So that's a limit, and you've got some limit of what the architecture could do in every phase. Of course, you've got if it's battery, motor, and drive, and all the electronics. There's architectural challenges too, right? So they're the team. Every week we meet, we plan ahead, we prioritize, we see development as it goes through its cycles. Donna and team and Vince and team, they launch so many products. They spread them out. They're not really refreshes. They're constant updates, and they come in with a thing called an S4P code. So it coordinates all the parts. But that's a thing we used to use in the past just to break quality changes or cost changes. We now use that to break more significant updates with more parts that all go together, like the heat pump we used for that example. And that allows us to launch at a much more regular interval than we would have been able to. So that than in the past. So yes, we always want faster. But things like the LFP battery on the Mach-E, the HMI upgrade after launch on the Menlo system, the screen system, to make it more usable, the reliability improvements for CarPlay and Android Auto, the heat pump, and then the Black Edition vehicle, now then the Rally. And the Rally was a special from that team. They came up with it, and that's a whole story in its own right, but that's another development, and we timed that one out. Again, non-standard timing, minimum timing. So it's that group, and they look at the feedback. We go there, we look at surveys, quality data, social media feedback. If there has been an incident, we'll talk about it. If there has been a significant subject to merging, we'll go in there and talk about it and debate it. Things are always a trade. They're never as simple as one would believe. And what one person wants may not be what another person wants, customer. And then you have regional. So what they must have in Europe, they would hate to have in North America. And sometimes they have to be the same, or you're increasing complexity and therefore cost. So you're then debating, and the people are passionate about it, which I love. You get a lot of passion about this car. So that trading is a real skill. And if it's done with love, like love for the customer, which those teams are, then we hopefully make the right decisions. So that's it. But the mantra is learning every day. None of us think we got these cars perfect yet. It's the most exciting part of working on them. We're learning every day. And if we learn something and we were wrong, you have pivot. Forget your pride, just pivot and do the right thing. And we've been changing things like the range estimator. There's that thing, I've had so much time on that. It's half science, half art, right? To try and get it right for customers and educate new customers and satisfy expert customers. That thing is a whole, we're learning, we are making changes and improvements to it, and we got a lot more to do. So yeah, that's our mantra anyway, is listen and learn and do it together.
Well, I'd love to come and spend like 2 days with them and just learn. It would be so fun. Somehow give me the access code. I'd love to come hang out. I'd love to see what's going on behind the scenes, and of course share some of my feedback with them, and maybe figure out why some things that seem so easy on the face of it may not be as easy going in. I think that would be a really fun thing. Of course, wouldn't be able to film or anything like that, and of course there's some things you can't share, but maybe it's something we can put together. I would love.
That's very cool. You know them very well, and they, I'm very proud of them and their care and love for what they do. And what you see is what you get. That's who Ford wants to be. And it is, them, and they are, you could sit with them all night, all day, ask them anything you want, because they are who they say they are. They care about it. They're just trying to get it right. And they will debate with you, and you'll have great fun debating with them. And you've done some of that. You've done that with Donna and Vince and the team as you've gone through these, right? Because you see they grappling with issues and what to do about them. They're wonderful to work with. I'm very proud of what they've done and the attitude they've taken on it.
Yeah, there's no issue with a people problem at Ford. You have the right people, which is great, and we're of course friends and fans of your colleagues. They do incredible stuff. Just to shift back to F-150 Lightning, because I do want to celebrate the 2-year anniversary, and thank you for peeling back the curtain on a lot of how the software is done. I'm a car reviewer from a suspension, powertrain, handling stuff, trying to learn software, as is the rest of the industry, and it's not as easy as one would think, especially just to even learn what's important and what's not. But talk to us about Lightning. So Lightning went on sale just over 2 years ago. Forget the numbers. The truck's amazing. It's so fast. It's so quiet. It's so comfortable. Though everyone says the same thing. So useful. Mega power frunk. How awesome is that? What's the future? What for F-150 Lightning? Is it just it's great, no need to do any major updates to it into the future? Of course, T3 is a thing, but to me, it's like if you're a working person or just want the most comfortable electric truck or most comfortable daily driver, even you just buy this, and it's like, okay, it's already the benchmark in so many areas.
So it still has there's plenty of things we're still doing with it. There's a pipeline of updates which are continuous and set at a timing which is as fast as we can do it. There's no other set launch windows other than that, just as quickly as we can do it. So we just launched the 24 model year, and that has a lot of improvements in it. We also, as a team, went for a new level of quality. It's so important, and it's so important for new customers' perception of EV that we want it perfect. So we set a very high bar for that team. We want perfect cars to the customers, no problems. And it was a very hard challenge for them. They're in the middle of doing it now, and no car ships unless we have checked it and made it as perfect as is humanly possible. That's exactly what we're doing now. We didn't ship them until they were. And so they trickled out a little bit because of that on the 24 model year, but we want them perfect. And it has lots of improvements in it already, and the heat pump, and lots of improvements in the Blue Cruise next gen systems as well, and so on. But it doesn't mean it's got everything we're ever going to do. There's lots more. We're still going to keep doing the interface. That's just as fast as we can do it. That's just a software update, and we'll pass it back to everybody before. There's lots of different requests on that: faster, better response, more reliable CarPlay. That's reached very reliable now. And then showing the kilowatts people requested. That was came in from you guys and others just to see that. So that's been added now, and more wanted dog mode, of course, and some others, right? So also power thing, controlling the power system, because key off power supply people really want, and that's great. Walk away lock we just put on there, again, requests from people. So it's not everybody who's requesting all these things, but customers are. So we're getting through them as quickly as we can with quality. OTA was a bit slower before, especially because the Blue Cruise update was a really tough one with lots of modules, and we want zero risk of failure. And we saw it. We didn't have the failure, but it took us longer. That held up a whole load of things behind it. So now they started flowing, and we're seeing many more. In fact, Ford just won an award for OTA in the industry, and they're very proud of that because it's very important to us. We just did the app update to a new app now, and that's the next stage. It's not everything we want. There are things that want more on the app, but they're tied to the car, and you can't just update on the app. If you want greater control, you've got to change the car as well. So they have to be coordinated. So not finished on that, but we made a good update to the app. It's really nice on the watch now as well. So it's a continuous cycle of those. There's a couple of others, might be a couple of surprises as well, which I won't talk about in it. But we are definitely not finished with it. And listening to people, what and how they use it, what they talk about, and also watching what they modify. That's another tool. How do they modify them? And then maybe we can do that factory, right? So that's another area that we look at as well.
Thank you for that insight. Yeah, I love to hear about all the investigation and internet sleuthing you do on your team to make sure that you're building the best product that you can. Ford is obviously very influential from the beginning of just being an automaker and now moving into the electric space. So we really appreciate your time. We've taken far too much of your time, Darren, today, Vice President of Electric Vehicle Programs at Ford. So thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I'm sure everyone will have comments and questions, and so I'm sure they'll put them in the comments and your team will read them, perhaps. So thank you so much, Darren.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Yes. Bye, everyone. Thanks for plugging in for another episode. See you next time.